tie up a great little panfish fly for you today. This is called the polecat. Panfish season is starting soon. They really love these buggy little flies. This is similar to the Gill Getter. Also, there's another fly a friend of mine ties. He calls the sparkle nymph. I think that's what it is, which is very similar to this, just different materials. But the polecat is a great fly. It's got it's got lots of nice contrast. Let me get my tongue untied there. And it's a great fly for early in the season. When the bluegills are on the beds or in shallow, you can tie this without any weight, but it also works throughout the summer, getting down a little bit deeper. So this is a quick little fly. That's the polecat. I'll get started tying. Start the polecat by putting my hook in the vise. This is a Mustad 3906B in a size 8. I like the B. It's a little bit longer shanked hook, and I tend to tie my bluegill flies a little bit bigger because if they're too small, like 10s and 12s, you get a lot of small bluegill and they're going to actually inhale these and then it gets caught down in their throat. But you could use a little bit longer, like a R73, which is a 9671 or something like that if you want a longer body. Now I'm going to add some lead to this, some weight. This is just a lead wire, 0.015 diameter lead wire. You don't have to. This is optional. In the springtime, if you're fishing this fly, doesn't need to go that deep. Just the heavier wire nymph hook would probably be plenty to get it down. But in the summertime, having a little bit of extra weight helps. So you could have a lighter wire like this. I put about 20 wraps on here. Or you could have less wraps with a heavier wire if you want, or even heavier wire and more wraps. Up to you. This is a great fly for those dog days of summer where the bigger fish tend to be a little bit deeper along weed lines or structure, and you just need to get this like on a pond or on a lake or something. You just need to let this sink down a good 5-6 feet. I'm going to attach my thread. I'm using a 6/0 Danville in black. I'm going to attach my thread right behind the eye of the hook. And then when I get to the lead wraps, I'm just going to softly open wrap down that lead. I don't want to move it down the hook shank till I get behind the lead to secure the tag in. Then I'm just going to go back and forth over that lead just a couple of times to get my thread back to the very back for the tail. For the tail, I'm using a black Marabou. This is a great fly to use. You get these odd little Marabou feathers like this one or this one that are just kind of not the best feathers in the world for, say, woolly buggers or other flies, but they work well for this one because you don't have to have a very pronounced tail. I'm going to take this feather, I'm going to cut it about in half, and then stroking all of the Marabou fibers together, I'll measure that about a shank length long. Actually, I like it about a hook length long, just a little bit longer. And I'll tie that in and then wrap forward in an open spiral up the lead and the hook shank. Just to bind that in a little bit, I'm using that Marabou just to add a little bit of bulk underneath. Bring my thread back down to the back end to tie in the body. The body on this is a black chenille and a yellow chenille, using a medium rayon chenille in yellow and a large rayon chenille in black. The black gets tied in first, And since the black is just folded over in the resulting fly, it's not wrapped in, it's just folded over. You do want to make certain that you have the very end of that right down to the tail. You don't want to tie in that cord and have some of that cord. So when you fold this over, you're seeing bare thread. You want that chenille just right there. The yellow, I'm going to tie the yellow in right in front of the black there. And that is what will get wrapped in for the body. Advance my thread about halfway up the hook shank. This is where I'm going to tie in the rubber legs. For rubber legs, I'm using some medium round white rubber legs. I'm going to separate two of these out, and I want to try and keep them together. I don't want to separate them just yet. These are about 1.5 inches long. I'm going to tie these in right at the halfway point on the shank, 3 wraps, not too tight, because we're going to need to be able to slide those rubber legs underneath those thread wraps in a moment. Attach or wrap up the yellow chenille. Now, a lot of this chenille, when it comes off the card, can be kind of flat. This rayon just gets kind of compressed and flattened when it's wrapped onto these cards. So what I like to do is just attach my hackle pliers or a dubbing loop tool or something and twist this up just to give it a fuller, more round appearance as we make the body on this. As I mentioned, those rubber legs I did not separate, and this is why. Because right now, as I'm wrapping this in, I only have these two that are together to navigate as I wrap the yellow chenille in. If I had those pulled to the sides and separated, I would have one on each side that I would have to navigate around. Not that big of a deal. It's easy. It still is easy to do. Some people prefer to do it that way. This is just the way that I do it. When you get to the rubber legs, you want one wrap behind, one across the middle, and then come around in front and just continue your way up. Make certain your wraps are tied up, I should say close enough to each other that you're getting all of the under body, the black thread and marabou covered up. Trim away the excess. Be careful. It's easy to potentially get a large head on this fly because of the chenille. Now, if needed, you can trim the rubber legs at this stage. Bring those together. I will use my index finger as kind of a depth gauge and trim those right off. They're pretty even, so I didn't really have to. Now I'm going to separate those legs. And I'm going to slide the set of legs on my side and on your side out to the side of the fly, just like that. Much easier to get that yellow on when those are together like that than it is if they were separated right now. The black chenille, I put a little bit of a twist in that just to thicken it up a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it forward. I'm going to tie it in right behind the eye. Make certain it's secured right on top and trim away the excess. And you have to be careful at this step because you might have a little bit of fluff sticking out underneath your thread. We want to bind all that in, but we don't want to make too big of a head, which is very easy to do on this fly. Once the head is made, get in a 4 or 5 turn, maybe 6 or 7 turn whip finish. I generally don't worry about the rubber legs, as you saw there. They tend to move out of the way when I'm doing the whip finish. If needed, one thing you can do, get yourself some of these little hair clips like this. And if you're more comfortable, you can slide all those legs back. This clip's a little bit big, as you can see, but you can put a clip on there to hold those back while you're doing your whip finish. With that done, I'll put some head cement on here. Make certain I like to apply a good bit of head cement and let that really soak in, because the bluegill their little teeth will definitely chew this fly up. Alternatively, one thing you can do if you want is you can trim the front legs to be a different length. If you want, instead of the same length, you can trim the front ones just to be a little bit shorter. Maybe gives it a little bit more realistic look to it. It's up to you. You can do this in different colors. The Chartreuse in black is good. Orange and black is also good. You could use silly legs, some flaked legs on this if you want. But this is a great panfish fly. It's similar to the Gill Getter, which I've also done a video on that one. Just a little bit different, but it's a great fly for getting down deeper to fish, and they really seem to love it. So that is the polecat. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned at least a new pattern, if not a new technique, maybe a tip or trick here and there. If you have any questions about this fly or any of the techniques used in constructing this pattern, please leave them in the comments section down below. If you go to the trouble to ask a question, I'll go to the trouble to answer it. If you'd like to help dressed irons, please share this video with your friends and anybody you think that might enjoy this pattern. Until next time, remember, it's fly tying. If you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong.